My people, Lesotho has just caved in to Donald Trump pressure. Yes, they've caved in. They've caved in. Yeah, scared. Very scared. They gave in. Lesotho has granted a license to tech billionaire Elon Musk Starlink. We talked about this, right? I told you, they were talking about fast-tracking all these queries and make things easy for America. I told you it was about Elon Musk. I mean, they certainly thought about it. They were like, okay, Elon Musk is a very close friend to Donald Trump. If we please the friend, Trump will probably, make us feel okay. Crazy, man. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. Here we're going to tell you the truth. Okay? It's not going to be nice all the time. Sometimes we have to bash each other for the goodness of everybody. Yes, we bash each other here. Nobody's spared. Everybody's bashed here. When you're doing something wrong, we're going to talk about it. You do something good, we're going to talk about it. So Lesotho has granted a license to tech billionaire Elon Musk Starlink. Why is this? Because Lesotho, here's a map. As you can see, it's a landlocked country in the middle of South Africa. It's going through the mud. Let's talk about Lesotho first. It's a beautiful place. Lovely people. It's very high. So you have to drive all the way. If you don't take an airplane, you have to drive. It's beautiful. Some of the purest waters in Africa you found in Lesotho. Some of the nicest people accommodating in Lesotho. Beautiful landscape. Great culture. You can see them always covering themselves with blanket. It's amazing. What's interesting is whether it's cold or it's hot, you always see them with blanket. No, you won't survive with the blankets. Anyway, because you're going to be very hot. Now, Lesotho is a kingdom. It's a small African kingdom that was hit the highest with 50% tariffs from Donald Trump. What does that mean? It means for everything Lesotho produces to take back to the United States of America, you have to add 50%. Let's make it practical. Let's say you used to sell a pair of jeans for $100. In America. Now with 50% tax, you need to add 50% to $100, which is $50. So instead of selling for $100, you have to sell for $150. And obviously when you do that, for the people that used to buy the goods of Lesotho, they will be like, no, I'm not paying 150. 100 I can, but 150 no. Let me try to find another seller. And that's not good for Lesotho, because then Lesotho lose a market. Let me explain to you better. Lesotho is one of the best producers of denim. Yes, denim. You call it jeans. I also call it jeans. I know. I don't like, I like simple things. My jeans. Bring me my pair of jeans, my denim. Anyway, now Lesotho produces jeans for America. Yes, you're American, you wear a pair of jeans, Levi's, Gap, Calvin Klein, and many other stuff. They come from Lesotho. Yes, my brother, they come from Africa, this place. Okay, America don't make jeans like that. They come from Lesotho. Why Lesotho? Because it is cheaper in Lesotho. How is that possible? Because the money they pay people from Lesotho is much lower than the money they would have to spend for an American worker. So they prefer paying these Africans. Pay these Africans peanuts. It's okay. They don't need money anyway. That's what they do. Now, how is this possible? There is this system called AGOA that allows many African nations to export into America with no tariffs. So whatever you produce in your country at a very cheap price, you can sell it to America with no having to pay any more tax. So that has opened a great door for many African countries. And Lesotho is the denim biggest beneficiaries. Matter of fact, many American companies are now stationed in Lesotho for production. Levi's, Calvin Klein, and many. They have, factories in Lesotho. And obviously, this employs many people from Lesotho. About 12,000 jobs. Okay? So Lesotho is a small country with a very small GDP. They need all they can to survive. And this is one of those things that they need. Lesotho is also the country, unfortunately, with the most HIV in the world. 1 out of 4 people in Lesotho is HIV positive. Therefore, the country needs medication for the people. And the United States of America used to send medication to Lesotho, ARVs, to keep people alive. And when Trump came into power, he said, no, I'm not sending this anymore. We're not sending anything to Lesotho. Nobody has ever heard of a country named Lesotho.
$8 million to promote LGBTQI+. In the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
It was disrespectful, yes. Why? Because he knew they had leverage. Now, after Trump cut US aid from Lesotho, very swiftly he imposed tax on Lesotho. Now, this is what we know. We were trying to understand why. Well, it's very simple. People trying to look to the wrong side. The good side is, the proper side is Trump's best friend at the moment, Elon Musk, went to Lesotho in 2024 to ask for a license for Starlink. Yes, to have his internet service provider functioning in Lesotho. And at the time, Lesotho refused to give him an opportunity because Lesotho has a law, a policy. What's a law? The law in Lesotho is, as a foreign company, if you come to operate in our country, you have to sell at least 30% equity of your company to the locals. Okay, this is a very similar policy South Africa has to allow black people who have suffered for the longest time to have opportunities to have money. Okay, so we're not asking you to give us 30%. We are asking you to sell 30% ownership to the locals. Now, Elon Musk was not interested in that. No, because he want to have entire 100% ownership with some company based in Holland. In other words, I want to have access to your company. I want to provide my services, but you just shut up. I'm not selling you any of that stuff. Now, the bottom line is, as soon as Trump hit Lesotho with 50% tax, Lesotho was shaking because they're scared. They don't know how to go about this. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and already the country is suffering because they're not getting any ARVs for people living with HIV. Is that a good thing as an African nation? Being dependent at that level of a foreign nation who don't give a continental about you. I mean, independence has been a long time ago. Haven't Africans learned that you need to think about yourself? You need to work with your neighbor. White people do that really well in Europe. Europeans have no borders. The only Africans that have borders and passport and visas. For you to live here, go to Uganda, you need a visa. From Uganda to Central Africa, you need a visa. Europeans have none of that. None of that. That's why the European Union, while you're just little small African countries. Now, you still depend on Americans and Europeans that colonize Africa. I know America didn't colonize Africa, but neo-colonialism is being done by America. And it's very sad that so many people in Lesotho are jobless because Donald Trump decided to impose tariffs. Lesotho was given in. Will South Africa follow suit? Because South Africa is also under a lot of pressure. Now, what are the legal sticking points to South Africa? To operate in South Africa, Starlink needs to obtain network and service license, which both require 30% ownership by historically disadvantaged people. Who are the disadvantaged people? The black people of Southern Africa, who've been through apartheid and the beatings and the cursing and all that. Elon Musk went to South Africa for the same license. They refused to give him the license because he refused to give 30% to the locals. And later after that, Donald Trump said, well, South Africa is a racist country because they are doing bad things to minorities. Bad things that are happening in South Africa.
The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land.
Now, what should the Africans do? I think there's a great lesson to learn from China because China has imposed reciprocity. You know, I mean, as much as sometimes it hurts you, you need to have a level of dignity and honor. And surely, beside dignity and honor, you need to have serious working activities. Chinese have been working very hard. China was a very poor country after World War II. But since then, they've been working very, very hard to improve. They've been working very hard to produce the most engineers, the most doctors, the most researchers. Africans in the meantime been doing what? They've just been begging, waiting for money from Europe, get for money from America, waiting for money from China. But China was a poor country. How have the Chinese achieved it? The Chinese have been working hard to develop themselves. In the meantime, Africans have been mocking each other because they don't speak English well or French well. Oh, your French is broken. Yeah, they laugh at you, forgetting that China developed itself not in English nor French, but in Mandarin and Chinese languages. So Africans need to look. I think this is a great opportunity, fellas, to sit down and look at yourself and say, I am a beggar. I actually am a beggar. You know, I live off begging. And if people switch me off, I'm done. And that is the first place you should start working on. Before creating all these relationships with people you're going to be dependent on, you should be investing in the people so your country can be independent. Now, this is a lot of pressure for South Africa, because if Lesotho can cave in, they're going to try to make South Africa cave in too. Bottom line is this: Lesotho is landlocked, is within South Africa. So if Starlink will operate in Lesotho, it has to come through South Africa, because Lesotho has no border to the sea. Yes, internet provider service has to come through land. So they're going to be using some of South African facilities to bring in internet into Lesotho in terms of Starlink. In the meantime, South Africa is opposed so far. Will South Africa cave in? How will the relationship be between the South African government and the Lesotho government? So the bottom line is the Lesotho government denied trying to make things better for America. But a few days later, they say, okay, yes, we want them back. How do you feel about this? Let me know how you feel about this. And now we're going to Kenya. Here's Kenya. Beautiful place, lovely people. Okay, something very interesting has happened in Kenya, fellas. 2 Belgian teenagers were arrested and charged with wildlife piracy after they were found with 1,000 of ants packed in a test tube in what Kenyan's authorities said was part of a trend in trafficking smaller and lesser known species. Ants, you know what ants are? Yes, so these 2 kids, Leron David and Sepilodevich, 19 years old, they were found with thousands of ants into small tubes. They were trying to extract these ants and take them away. The Kenyan Wildlife Service said that these men were involved in trafficking the ants to market in Europe and Asia, and that the species include the Mesor celapholotus, a distinctive large and red color harvesters native to East Africa. So, I didn't know there was a great market for ants. Did you know that? It's crazy. Well, the Kenyan authority valued the ant at 1 million shilling per ant. That's about $7,700 per ant, my brother. How much is that? $7,700 in Ugandan shillings, in South African rand. Kenyan authority valued an ant at 1 million shillings. The price of an ant can vary greatly according to species and the market. Great. This is crazy stuff. You can traffic ants, my brother, in Kenya. This is insane. Is this a good thing? I understand they are teenagers, but if you go and take something from China, you think you're going to come out alive, my brother. If you went to Belgium and took something that belongs to Belgium, would you come out alive? You wouldn't. They will put you in jail. So what are these ants for? Okay, these ants collect, store seeds, helping with seed dispersal and soil aeration. Their underground granary often allows seed to germinate in nutrient-rich environments. I didn't know, you see things and you neglect them. You don't understand how valuable they are. God is not stupid. Number 2, soil enrichment. Their nesting and foraging behavior naturally till the soil and improving aeration and nutrient cycling, similar to what earthworms do. Wow. This is an eye-opener. Number 3, pest control. Through granivorous, they also consume insects, helping keep pest population in check in some ecosystem. Interesting, fellas. This is absolutely insane. We know that people took rhinoceros horns and elephant horns, but ants, it's crazy stuff. Let me know how you feel about this. Lesotho caving in to Donald Trump and issuing a permit, a certificate, or whatever you call it, a license to Starlink to operate, even though they have a law that says you need 30% given to Lesotho to function. Are they going to be respected again? If you cave in for somebody, will anybody else respect you for that? Is this going to be trouble for South Africa? Because it's going to be pressure, more pressure, because if one country has caved in, then you have the courage to put further pressure to South Africa so they can accept. Will South Africa cave in as well? Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know how you feel about Kenya arresting these teenagers with 5,000 ants put into tubes. They packed about 2,000 tubes that had been filled with cotton wool to enable the ants to survive for months. So these kids know exactly what they're doing. They put cotton in tubes to keep the ants alive. So they're going to go sell them. And Kenya estimates one ant for $7,700. Wow. God bless.